So why am I talking about Homeland Security? Well, there's a reason for this, people. Why a Department of Homeland Security? Let's get down here just a little bit. After the attack of September 11th, counterterrorism was simply not the top priority of U.S. law enforcement and intelligence communities. After September 11th, priorities changed rapidly. President George Bush, argued an attempt to preempt action from Congress, created an Office of Homeland Security designed to coordinate domestic terrorist efforts. Some members of Congress and some of the experts in the field, however, recommended a new federal agency or full department to integrate and heighten anti-terrorism efforts. In 2002, the Bush administration sponsored its own proposals along these lines. On November 19, 2002, Congress passed the Homeland Security Act of 22. President named Tom Ridge, former Director of Homeland Security, to be Secretary of the new Department of Homeland Security created by the Act. Okay? Now, the thing is down here, people. Okay. When we look at the, right here. When we look at the emerging Department of Homeland Security, we see that it incorporates 22 government agencies and some 179,000 people into a single organization. Also, you see a big jump in domestic spending along this domestic defense thing. Okay? And they got a blueprint and all these policy changes. Okay, why am I talking about this? It's because lumping everything together. Now, the Homeland Security wouldn't have passed at all. Nobody wanted all these government agencies lumped together. There's a reason for that. Something else that wouldn't have got passed during that time was the Patriot Act. Patriot Act was passed. People were hem-hawing around. They didn't want to give up our liberties, and sure as hell, you create a problem. And what they did by creating a problem, and these people in government did this, they sent these anthrax letters to people in Congress. Oh, scared the living hell out of them. Oh, we got to do something. We got to do something. So they passed the Patriot Act. Okay, now why am I bitching about them putting all the Homeland Security people together, lumping them? Okay, we're going to look at this. This is the Hegelian principle of dialectic materialism. And what it is, why you need to understand it, how to spot politicians and media when they use it. George Friedrich Wilhelm Hegel, 1770 to 1831, was a German philosopher who was very influential. Much of his writings are considered abstruse. What he was in reality, as he continued to live through his ideas, is a master manipulator and an expert in the art of lying. The form of manipulation he espoused is what communists the world over use today. It's called dialect, and that is thesis versus antithesis, which leads to synthesis. If this sounds confusing, don't worry, it's meant to be. The devilish enemies of freedom and liberty must cover their tracks and do anything to confuse the issue, lest the masses catch on to what they're doing. For their subtleties, lies, and cheap tricks are exposed for what they really are, and then they lose control over the minds of the people. The term dialect comes from the word dialogue, and it simply means to reason things out by talking them over. Webster gives these definitions. It's a discussion and reasoning by dialogue as a method of intellectual investigation. And the Hegelian process of change in which a concept or realization passes over it and is preserved by its opposite, and developed through the stages of thesis, antithesis, and synthesis in accordance with the laws of dialectical materialism. Still confused? Don't let be. Let's put this in common terms so everybody can imagine. Okay, just think of this following situation. Your water heater pilot light keeps going out. You call the plumber, but unknown to you, the plumber has a police record in another town where he's known as Shifty Joe. Sounds like Slick Willie, don't it? Joe the plumber comes over, checks out your pilot light, which really keeps going out simply because of some grit in the burner. But Joe knows this, and he tries to talk you into buying an expensive new hot water tank. You refuse. Your present water heater isn't that old, and you don't have a lot of extra money to spend, and the price that Joe quotes you is far too high. Does Joe give up? No, he's an expert at mind manipulation. He knows how to use doubts, fears, and uncertainties that are common to the human condition. He just shrugs and puts a pilot light back together, but when you're out of the room, he does two things. He blows some grit into the gas line, and then he pours some rusty water under the water heater. Turns out the light, gives you his card with advice to call him if you have any more problems with that old heater. Surely enough, in a day or so, the light goes out again, and you examine the heater, you discover a little bit of rusty water. A little nervous about what Joe had said about the faulty heater, you call Joe again. And after further words from Joe about a dangerous water heater that could blow up, you reluctantly give in and accept the very idea that you had refused to consider only days before. You got to buy Joe's overpriced, unneeded hot water tank. And you do this at great cost by taking out an expensive loan which you cannot afford, but Shifty Joe has won, using lies, cheap tricks, and your own insecurities and lack of knowledge against you. You have bought something you don't need at a price you can't afford from someone you don't like or trust. What on earth caused you to do this? Let's see how Joe did this. He lied and he cheated. He used cheap tricks about a faulty old rusty hot water tank. Then he creates concern about the problem, which generates fear and hysteria about the water heater blowing up. And he graciously offers a solution which you previously refused to even consider. The Hegelian principle can be explained as follows. Change in a society is brought about in three-step process: thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. The first step, thesis, is to create a problem. The second step, antithesis, is to generate opposition to the problem: fear, panic, hysteria. The third step, synthesis, is to offer the solution to the problem created in step one, a change which would have been impossible to impose on people without the proper psychological condition achieved in stages 1 and 2. You understand now how this is working? Now we didn't need Homeland Security, but they wanted Homeland Security for a reason. Number one, somebody would be in charge of everything under the sun up there. They can control everything. You look at the mess that President Trump's inherited, with everybody covering up Hillary's tracks. All the Democratic tracks are getting covered up. How do you do that? Well, number one, you have the FBI and things like that, and they are covering things up for Hillary because somehow or other they got promised things or made money, one form or another, and they feel responsible and very protective for Hillary because they were going to get something out of it. Okay, now, with all this big umbrella over all these 22 agencies, there's some guy in charge. And he can squish everything that he needs to squish, and things are okay. Now, somebody had to know about what the FBI and all them other agencies were doing to help Hillary. Uranium one, all this other stuff. They had to know. That's their job. It's not like something just popped out, oh, well, we didn't see that before. Somebody at the top is in charge. When you have all those agencies under one person, you got a problem. They can squash anything that they want to. It's a clever way to do it. And that's like, you know, it's kind of like lumping all these school kids into one building. You know, from kindergarten through 12. That's a terrorist dream come true. But you let it happen. Before, all the schools are spread out. And that's how the Homeland Security should be. All these agencies should be spread out. Because what you do, you have all those agencies in one central location, and you bomb them or you do whatever to take them out. Poison their water, whatever. It was asinine to put all those agencies into one lump sum. Just like putting all your kids into one school where, you know, a terrorist would have a field day. Okay, guys, I just wanted to bring this to your attention. That is what's going on in the world. They're using your fears and anxieties and hysteria, all this stuff against you, and you can't see it. It's right there. You know, it's just like them passing the Patriot Act. It was not going to pass. They had no intention of passing that. But somehow or other, the congressmen and them, they got anthrax letters in the mail. Ooh. And that was the stick that broke the camel's back. It pushed them right over the edge. Oh, we got to pass this. We're in danger. Do you see that, people? That's what's going on in this country right now. And it's time to put everything back the way it used to be. Not everybody lumped under one umbrella. Thanks for watching.